I didn't hear the response actually on the anchor bolts to the. I understand you're doing the retrofit for
On the side of it, you say?
yeah, on the side of it.
Yeah, so we're proposing that a retrofit is probably necessary based on our experience with this age of buildings. We see some reinforcement that's been done. We actually don't know when. Looks like way back
Okay.
in the cross direction. We don't see any retrofit that's done in the longitudinal direction, but we see some things that are alarming that would trigger
An inspection.
not an inspection, that would really kind of mandate that you need to do a seismic upgrade. Like, for example, look at this elevation. What you see on a lot of windows in very little solid.
The bolts are right above that, right?
Sorry?
The seismic bolts are right above that.
The bolts do a different thing. So the solid wall is what resists falling down.
Sometimes, yeah, yes, that's true.
Not sometimes,
Yes.
always.
Well, I mean,
Always.
yeah, it does. Yes.
So
the
let me
sheer strength.
So let me finish. Yeah. So we see lacks there. You know, we've seen reinforcement happening in the cross direction,
Gotcha.
not reinforcement done in the long direction.
And
then
how would you change that?
let me finish. The other thing that's alarming, multiple heights of buildings, which means the shear loads that are being generated by the weight of the roof are not being directly transferred down the way they would in a contemporary design meeting current codes, right?
Fine.
So we've done many seismic upgrades of schools, so we have a good sense of what that would cost for a wood frame school with these kind of masses in play. Again, we haven't done a detailed design, which of course the district wouldn't want to pay for unless we know there's community support for doing the upgrade.
What would that cost, that study, just on its own?
Yeah, I couldn't pull something out.
If
off
the seismic,
top of my head.
wouldn't that be better to do a lighter roof then?
Yeah.
Well,
you would
so
think?
again, this is a community value. Yes, there would be fewer loads on the building if there wasn't the tile roof, but then
But you can still get the same look, right?
you're never going to get that same look unless you have that.
Well, it's weathered.
But we could get something that is similar,
Right, if you want to
lighter.
preserve that
It's probably
look.
more expensive, but that's okay because it'll last longer.
Last longer.
But we don't want to put, comp or metal roof. We want to keep it looking
And
like
I think
that.
they even have solar that matches clay tile roof.
No.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
there's
And-
a question here.
I have a question, one thing we haven't touched on, and that is electrical upgrades.
Yeah.
I remember being the technical director behind that stage for many years, and that panel, there were holes in it, you could stick your finger in the panel.
Yeah.
And the breaker switches, 3 of them didn't work.
Yeah.
You know, and so I was just wondering about that. Is that something you see in several locations around the school, or is it just there?
Well, it's primarily in the main building.
In the main
And also tube and knob, or knob and tube, excuse me, wiring, which is the original wiring. Capacity is not
Right.
what you would expect it to be for a school building today. And then if a rat chews through the knob and tube.
Is it still asbestos?
So I don't have any information on hazardous materials.
Okay,
So there,
that would be
it's possible there are some
an
hazardous
abatement
materials.
issue
That
there.
would be an abatement issue.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, the last main the building I want to talk about, Mr. Oxley pointed out, is the 200 building here, and that needs a new roof also. It's got copper piping in there, but for some reason, not sure if the copper is just lower quality or if it's our water, but it's got areas where the water actually is leaking through from the inside out. In pinholes? Yeah, and so that's an issue with water leaks, with replacing the plumbing in that building and the roof. But that's obviously a lot less money than fixing our main building.
I just had a question. So, maybe Mr. Hoxie can answer.
Yeah.
But in the report,
Mr. Hoxie, can you join us for the meeting?
Just it said that one portable dry rot roof would have been replaced this past summer. Did that happen? This was last October structural report to the state. The report card for the school accountability. Yeah, here.
Roof leaks and felt paper.
Yeah. One portable dry rot will be replaced next summer. So this was October 21. So that would have been this past summer. Was that done?
No.
No. It was not done?
State, yeah, the report card.
It needed to be done, but.
Yeah, so this is a state report card that says everything was rated good except for the roof and structural
There was no
damage.
money for it.
That was rated fair, and then Mr. Hoxie said this was not done, this portable dry rot
And Mr. Hoxie
replacement.
said there was no money for that
Yeah,
replacement.
okay, that's, just wanted to understand, because I was trying to look to see what was done.
These
that was
buildings, when
missed.
the roofing got done, all these portables put in 2000, in 2014, 15 or whatever, they were all re-roofed. They put plywood down, fiberglass, put that, what do they call it, the rubber membrane, I call it. Yeah, TBV or whatever. So it's got a 50-year roof on it, which extends the life of these buildings a whole lot.
Yeah.
At the same time, we had enough to go into the wells of this building because the wells were leaking like crazy. And
Valleys, you mean? The valleys?
Yeah, the valley. I call them wells.
Okay.
Yeah. But there's two of them up there. They were all stripped off, and we had to fix some wood. We had to do some fixing of the dry rot that was underneath it, and then they put the same TBV in those valleys.
Right.
But we didn't get into the tile
main-
part
the main
because that's a whole other can of worms.
So on this report card, this thing says re-roofing was completed in 2013. Is that talking about these?
Those are the patches.
And the patches that were done there?
Yeah.
Okay, so that
They
wasn't
wrote-
completely
They wrote
re-roofed.
main building on there, right?
Well, it's a little deceiving. It says new plumbing in the main building was replaced during the summer of 2012, period. Re-roofing was completed in 2013 and gutter repairs were done in 2014, period. It doesn't, I assume it follows right after main building, but
But they weren't
maybe it
that
was,
specific about it.
maybe it was not written correctly.
You've
I'm not
brought
the
up in the
most
past
literate when it comes to
sewer.
writing these things down. I do the.
You're awesome, Mr. Hoxie.
I write the reports up, and I don't. Yeah, some of it might not be
So
quite right.
there was something with regard to the sewer upgrade. What exactly are we talking about there? Oh, also the science classroom or whatever that we're doing. What are the propositions? Because we didn't know. One person, I think it was Bob Frillman, asked, are we talking about a new construction with the science? And got a no, but we don't have any other details. So, yeah.
That's the what, I'm sorry?
Yeah.
It's reconfiguring, so it's a niche space for extending the function of the existing NPR, the existing multipurpose room. So
The
that's-
cafeteria is
I
what
see.
we call it.
And do we have
almost $2
gas
million
there
in
for
it?
Bunsen burners, or do you know? I mean, we do have gas, I think, for the
In the
kitchen.
science
So I
lab,
don't.
there are Bunsen burners.
They haven't
Okay.
used them you said you haven't used them in years and years and years,
No,
right?
we cut the gas off.
Yeah.
That's just a liability.
Yeah.
For a grade school, I don't think we need.
Yeah, normally
Okay.
Bunsen burners are not used.
So the upgrade in the cafeteria room is almost $2 million?
1.8 is what I
1.8,
remember, but
yeah.
I don't want to
No,
trust
that's
my
what you
memory.
gave us, yeah.
Yeah,
1.8, almost
1.87.
1.9.
Yeah.
Yeah, so the idea is not to build more buildings. So when they're saying construct a math and engineering lab, talking about reconfiguring the cafeteria space, maybe some movable walls, different, maybe desks that can be rolled out of the way.
That request came from the teachers, so they did feel that we're limited on our real estate here at Sunol Glen, and thinking that if we could, most elementary schools have a multi-purpose room, but we don't. And so trying to see if there's ways to reimagine that space, but that came directly from the teachers. That was
$6
so we
million
wanted to-
for the
so we-
month. That was,
So
what
we
was the
wanted to-
multi-purpose room?
So Linda, we wanted to respect make sure we heard from their wish as well.
In
That was
Measure O.
$6 million
$6
for the
million
new building.
for the new building.
Yeah.
Okay, for the
And
multi-purpose
it's actually
building.
almost a little bit more.
Now it's
That
more
got
without a new
yeah,
building.
you were almost
How much
$11
was it
million.
for? I'm sorry, that number kind of, I wasn't paying attention. How much did you say?
The new building was almost over $6 million.
Yeah.
Now, that was only a $9.5 million bond. Now we're almost at $11 million bond without the building, so it got absorbed somewhere else.
That's right. I see.
There's a little bit of confusion too by
That was from Measure A you're talking about.
No,
Measure O before
What is
J.
that?
From 3 years.
From, the last election.
I have a question first about the sewer systems.
Well, can I just ask one
Oh.
quick thing here? Okay, so this says that for renovating this, it says 1.8, like you said, 7.8, but then on this other one that came from your office, it's actually 1.978.
Another
the numbers have
100,000.
changed in the
Another-
last 2 weeks. I don't know what happened.
And we don't understand, well, I know we
think
took
you-
off,
I think you might be comparing stuff from our office and stuff from another source, because that's the
could
only
be.
list that.
That's what was on the
So
website,
that-
the school website.
Okay.
And then I think originally there was a play yard that was taken off.
Right.
And so I'm assuming that's because you had that grant that covered the play yard.
That's
and so I see a number of things actually got bumped up. So
Right.
you took the play yard off and you bumped up about 4 different items, maybe 3.
Yeah.
I wrote them down, but I'm wondering, it's not monopoly money. We have to
Yeah.
account for these things.
Yeah, so it just, it's like 10.9 is not moving. Even if we get money from other things and we no longer have to do that work, then it just gets absorbed and other things get bumped up.
Right.
That's really what you shared with us
Because it was
last.
September 24th
today.
when I got the email that showed the budget, and then yesterday, everything moved without the playground, and all the other numbers just went up just to fill in.
The 10.9.
So it kind of seems like.
Everything just
seems like
always
the numbers
backs
are
into the
floating.
number.
So,
Well, I'm gonna ask these two, people actually represent the school. So why is that being done, the numbers, yeah?
should I explain?
No, I want the school members.
Okay.
Yeah, before you answer, Paul asked me at the board meeting for a project list. So we had a list of the projects. I sent you an email and I said, the numbers are not correct, but here's the project list. And
So
so
the
that,
change is made. That's, okay.
yeah, that,
And no,
I
and I don't
I
mean
forget
to be
which one I,
disrespectful to you, but the thing is, I've had third parties sometimes get information and later on you ask something about it and they're no longer there.
Yeah.
That's why I wanted school members, people to hear that would answer.
It's me personally that's providing advice to these two.
Right.
So I want to point out that the need that we assessed on this site is greater than $10.9 million, right?
I don't know, I'm missing.
in here.
The
It's
bond
11.
capacity for this community is $10.9 million.
Well, it's actually 12, right?
I was told it's 10.9.
So the board, so we listened to the community after Measure O didn't pass by 10 votes. And two things that came back to us was people really didn't like the idea of the multi-purpose room. It seemed like, I mean, a lot of people liked the idea of it, but that seemed too expensive. And yeah, so we listened to that. The board listened to that and said, you know what, let's take that off. And then the second one was the idea of having to pay for 4 years, crossing over the 2 bonds. And so the old bond is expiring in 2024, I believe. And so those 2 items were really important to this current board when making this decision. And that's why that got up there. But the needs list, I think it's in here. I think it's like 11 point something million. But we did, so then, sorry, I lost my train of thought. So then the bonding capacity is actually higher, but we really wanted to be respectful to the town, and the board made the decision to go for the lower amount because we could have gone for $60 per 100,000 or $59 per 100,000 assessed valuation. But instead we thought, well, we really want it to pass. We really care about our beautiful buildings and we want this to pass. And what might be more tolerable is to go for a lower amount and then prioritize that list. And then see if there's grant, like we did. We found a grant for the playgrounds. On the list right now is the garbage area. We're trying to look for a grant for that. So we're trying. I mean, that's our responsibility is to be exhaustive in finding grants and doing what we can. But then at some point, we do need to turn to the community to help support the school.
Yeah.
Did you want to add on to that?
just to add what Paul was saying is, our bond capacity for our district is higher than what we're asking. And the third thing, so she said people didn't want the multi-purpose room. They didn't want 2 bonds together stacked on top to pay for 2 at the same time. And they didn't want an increase in the amount because what we were asking for in Measure O was $59 per 100,000, whereas we were paying 52 per 100,000.
The reason was, as Ryan told me, that you wanted to try to keep it so that nobody would have to pay more, right? You're saying if it was 52 then, it would be 52 now, and we just extend for another 30 years.
Yeah, and to everyone's point is, we're saying, oh, there's no increase. Well, everything goes up and down, as everybody knows. We have, interest rates go up and down, property values go up and down. Property values usually mostly go up. But we asked originally for 59 per 100,000, and the public said, we don't want to pay more. Okay, well then we're going to keep it at the same rate. Well, the same rate right now is 52 per 100,000. Right. I think back then in Measure O, it was 49. So it's already gone up.
Yeah.
It almost sounds like we should have went for the 59, or for the...
What? Wait, what?
Wait, listen. We should have went for the $9.5 million one. You could have got a new room, Because all this other stuff that we're just finding out now wouldn't have been,
Well, it almost passed.
but it didn't pass.
No,
We
no,
still
I-
So
could
we
do-
wouldn't
yeah,
have to
we-
worry about seismic
The
because
mill-
seismic wasn't in it 2
Well,
years
the main
ago.
building is, it wasn't.
I looked it up.
Yeah.
It's
it
not in
was
the,
not in
not in
there.
Measure Row.
And Mr. Jurgensen,
you
as
could show
a
it to me,
current board member,
I would
do you want
appreciate
to, how do you feel about all of this?
Well, we know,
know what you want.
we know how you
What
feel
we-
about it
what
because
we've-
you want to pass the
So-
measure.
so
it's
one
not
thing
like
I-
an open. I mean, we know how he feels about it.
One thing I heard from Mike
I
is
would think it'd be kind to
Well,
give him
yes,
a
yes.
respectful.
Choose kind. That's right.
one thing I heard from one
Yeah.
one thing I heard from Mike is that he said there's a wish list. I don't hear wish from this gentleman. I keep hearing code compliance failing, code compliance failing. Something needs to be done. So to me, the first issue is ask yourself: does the school need something?
Hey, knock it off, guys.
Does the school need something? Does it need repairs? Yes. And then number two is, if we give the school money, do you trust the school board, the school management, the administration, Mr. Hoxie, to do what's right?
Well, but you haven't asked, is there another way to do the repairs in a priority manner that doesn't require us to issue such a large bond that will cost twice as much of the bond value over the next 33 years, right? Because the actual
Twice as much as what?
Well, it's
We pay the
10.9
bond.
million, but it really turns into all 22 million over 33
There
years.
is another way. You can ask everyone in the community to pay upfront a certain amount.
You
So-
can have a parcel. You can
Yes.
ask the community of parents that send their kids here because they really enjoy having their kids here to participate and support.
Yep.
You can have a prioritized approach so that it's not one bond measure that is a new tax, which is, misleading when it said that it's not a new tax. Of course it's a new tax. We wouldn't be voting on it if it wasn't a new measure. It is not more money because it just extends the amount that the households are paying. And I think that it's pretty insulting when some people say that the only amount that is going to increase for them is a cup of Starbucks a week when they're protected by Proposition 13, whereas anyone who's moved into the community since Proposition 13 is paying much, much more. And when you're on a fixed income in a time of inflation, actually that additional or that extended tax that continues is a big deal. So I just, I want you to appreciate that there are other views, and it's not because we don't value the school, and it's not because our children didn't enjoy coming here. It's because this idea that the only solution is a new tax, and that the only solution is that we do everything at once that's covered in that tax is not the only option. It's very uncreative to just say, well, let's just pass a new tax and then everything will be fine.
Because you can't say, I'm sorry, you can't say that in the next 30 years, you're not going to go out for another bond. There's going to be needs in the school.
I hear what you're saying. We have looked at those other options. We have asked that question. So to say we haven't considered that
Well,
is-
where has that discourse happened?
In-
In fact, here we are, October 22nd, and the vote is in 2.5 weeks, and we're doing the walkthrough now. And had we not pressed for more answers, we wouldn't have this document that Molly shared with us today, even though we've been asking for many, many weeks for more details. Where was the invitation for a conversation and a dialogue around all the different options?
May I answer?
And I will say one more thing, that these scare tactics, this, Sunol Glen is going to close if you don't pass Measure J, it's very misleading. It's very insulting, quite frankly. And I want to know how many people here today have had the sheriff come to their home because you're posting information on the public bulletin board that says, please go to this website to find more about Measure J. I tell you, I have. The sheriff has come to my home because those that are so opposed to us having an open dialogue and creative option and brainstorming about all the different ways that we can actually solve the problems together for a school that we all value, that our children went to, that we value in our community, that we want to see continue and that we know is not going to close because we don't pass Measure J. Imagine how that feels to be a member of this community, a taxpayer, somebody that values the school, the community, the children, and then to have the sheriff come to their home because we posted, please be informed, go to this website to learn more about Measure J.
I'm sorry if that happened to you.
It has happened. It's not if it happened. It
I'm
has
sorry
happened.
that happened to you. That sounds horrible.
Yes, but this is the bullying that's going on because we want to have an open discussion about different options instead of just extending another tax.
I am sorry for whoever did that. It wasn't us.
Well,
So
somebody
to
here
answer,
is part of that right here today.
Well, I agree with this. Bullying is bad. It's right here on the top.
Yeah.
But
Standing on it.
I personally feel the first question is, does the school need something? Not wish list. Does it need something? Yes, it does.
Yes,
We
and I
agree.
think we all agree.
And,
the
and
school
number,
needs-
and number two,
Yes.
how do we get the money? We have had lots of conversations, and the public is definitely invited to come to our school board meetings. It's been a discussion for years. Before Measure O, during Measure O, after Measure O, getting ready for Measure J. It's been a discussion in school board that whole time.
It has
Since
not been a
bef-
discussion that entire time. I'm sorry, Ryan, it has not.
It
Because
wasn't
this
on
popped
every
up,
month.
this Measure J just popped up in the last couple of months. And all this discussion has been happening because members of the community, taxpayers are wanting to know, why is this?
11 months ago, when I was on the board 11 months ago, we talked about it. So it's not on every meeting agenda, you're right. But a lot of the meeting agendas, it's on there. So do we need the money? We do, yes. We can argue about how it's all spent, but we can't really get into those details quite yet. We have estimates, but we can't get into everything until we start opening it up and doing it. The second question is, do you trust that the school leadership, the school board, and trusted advisors will use that money wisely? Or are we somehow going... Or are we going to...
Oversight committee that by law you have to put together
Correct.
in 60 days.
Correct.
And so there will be this committee that...
Oversight.
Correct. There's no way that any of us can line our pockets or somehow use it for
Nobody's saying
anything.
any of that.
Nobody said
I-
that.
I'm not saying, I'm just throwing out ridiculous as one example, and I'm going to bring it back. There's no way we can line our pockets. There's no way we can use it for any other pet projects. It's got an oversight committee. It's going to be used for the school, for the children. So do you trust the school board or not to use the money to help the children? That's the question.
Let me ask you a question.
Who do you want to have represent you on the school board, and do you want to show up to the meetings to share your opinion? Yeah.
Does the oversight committee, do they oversee the money after it's spent or before it's spent?
I would imagine it's both.
No.
So normally the citizens oversight committees in districts oversee the entire process. When we
But
design,
it's after it's spent, I
no,
understand.
No.
when we design something, we will, in districts, we will make a presentation to the citizens oversight committee, or we will give a presentation to the facilities committee, who will make a presentation.
Yeah, because that is how
It's the
the
process.
decision is about, like helping to just prioritize, for example. So I might have an opinion that my staff is really struggling. That needs to be happen. You know, that needs to be the first thing. Whereas the architect and the committee might say, no, the main building is really important. Okay, let's do that project first. But the committee, and I think Linda, maybe you were part of this in the last bond. The committee, and do you have it? Were you on it last time? Maybe.
No, I want to say something about bond oversight committees.
Oh, great.
As I said before, my kids have long since graduated. One is now a high school science teacher. One is a trauma therapist, and I think everybody here could use her services. But I'm also very active in the League of Women Voters. We happen to be, both my husband and I are active in the Fremont, New York Union City League, but I'm also in the Bay Area. There's an LWV Bay Area, which includes all 20 leagues around the Bay. And we pay attention to things like bond oversight committees. I just finished reading last night the grand jury report on the BART bond oversight committee, and they gave them hell because they did not require timely reports and updates. One thing I might suggest is that when you have a bond oversight committee, you require that they give you quarterly reports. Not monthly is too tight. You can't get enough of a view.
Not much different.
But I would say quarterly reports should be required, and obviously published to the public, so everybody has access to it. And I think the board would be actually relieved to have an active bond oversight committee, so you don't have to go read a grand jury report. I mean, I've read quite a few. I hate them. I mean, they're boring as hell. But I mean, the BART bond oversight report, if you want to read it, the last one that just came out, it's awful what they did not do, and it was because the administration, the BART employees, did not do the right thing. This board is on that, they live amongst you, so you know they're going to have to do the right thing.
And I think you want stakeholders in that committee. So you would have teachers, you would have classified, you would have community members,
You can,
have a board member.
list that
Yeah,
in the
yeah.
in the. I don't know if it's listed because I haven't seen the wording, but you can list who you want. We have
what they suggest and people. I just took a class on this. It was a 4-hour thing that was, Zoom, and it was California Association of Bond Oversight Committees. Really amazing group of people
It can be
all
if
over
it's
California.
listened to.
Yeah.
And
But if
I
it's
think
not-
that's available to anybody who's on this bond
It should have
oversight
been
committee.
listed in the measure. But I don't think I don't know if it was.
Oh,
or
it
not,
has
'cause I
to.
haven't read
It's
it.
part of Prop
No, I mean,
39.
who
It's
is-
a law.
No, I mean who they want represented. I mean, when BART had their big bond, almost $4 billion bond measure,
They have a
I went to
list.
all the meetings beforehand
Yeah.
as a representative of the league, and then on the last day, the woman who was in charge of BART announced their list of people that would be on the oversight committee.
So they have
3 were
specific
professionals.
things. They want a
Let me
senior
finish,
sitting.
Linda.
Okay.
Let me finish. We know each other. There were 3 professionals, and then there were 2 people that were outside of the professional community. They were league members. And I was stunned. They didn't let us know ahead of time because we had 19 different agencies that came to these meetings. The bike people and the disabled community and, all of them.
You should be on this bond
No.
oversight.
I've done my service to God and my country.
You gotta let her finish.
But I think if you find an outside group that you trust and ask them, you don't appoint them. They present someone to be put on the committee, and then the board votes on it.
I see.
And so that's the way it works. That's why there's a division. There's a separation between
And
the
there
board, which is what you
specific
want.
Categories. They said a senior citizen. I think they had one person that manages a business. I can't remember all of them, but they said up to 7 people. After that, it becomes too arduous to.
Yeah. Well, actually, all the data science tells you that the most effective size for a decision-making organization is 7. Actually, anything above that, with every person you add, it reduces the effectiveness of decision-making by 10%. So by the time you get to 17 people, there's 0 effectiveness in decision-making. So
that was
that's why
that
it's
was
7.
on that class.
That's
I
why
sat
it's
in
7.
it.
Yeah.
Took-
Yeah.
But
But
I think it's an important part of this. If the measure goes through,
Yeah.
then the public has an entree into what's going on, and the administration and the board have to cooperate, or all kinds of bad things will happen.
Right.
Yeah.
You do not want the county grand jury looking into it. Believe me, believe
And
me,
I
because
think
they don't
the
miss
board-
anything. They don't
the
miss
board
anything.
then will decide who is on that committee. The board passes who is on
If
that
you
committee.
specify, I want someone from this organization or this group or this professional group, you may want
Or a
some
senior
architectural.
citizen in the
Well,
community.
senior citizens
What
too
did you
vague.
say?
I mean, I think that's much too vague.
No, I was not calling
you
her
want-
I resemble that remark.
I do too.
categories.
But you need, I would recommend more specific categories. If you want, like maybe a CPA or somebody like that.
yeah.
Somebody who really knows
Without
money.
a professional background.
And maybe somebody who's retired. Well, maybe. But I mean, you have to decide that, and you can get community input into that. But it's really, really important. I can tell you from a league perspective, and it really makes a difference. So I think if it passes, I don't know. I'm not entree into all this since my kids are grown, and although one came back home. But anyway, but as a professional, she's the trauma psychiatrist who can help you guys. But I really do think it's important. If this goes through, I really do think the board members have to think carefully who would best represent the community and how. And quarterly, I strongly recommend not twice a year, quarterly reports to keep up and have them opened. Oh yeah, oh absolutely. It has to be. Yeah. So anyway, that's my recommendation from the outside, kind of outside, inside. Yes, we're taxpayers, but I also have an awful lot of experience of reading those darn reports. So.
We want you. Thank you.
No, I don't want them. No, please, God.
Is the seismic written into the bond measure?
project list.
No, it's not in the bond measure, but.
Well, there's 72 words limit or something, but it's been on the
but-
list both for Measure O.
Wait, but
And for-
if you're saying that something that's not on the bond measure, the money can't be spent on it, how are you gonna use that $3.1 million on seismic if it's not in the bond measure?
I think that maybe you know better than I do about that would be our bond advisor. But
It would be the bond.
I know that there's limited numbers, which is frustrating. But I think that as long as you have it on your project list that goes along with it. I mean, I don't.
You
I'm
understand
not
that
sure.
it looks a little fugazi when we ask for the numbers and all of a sudden we can't get up to 10.9 and seismic comes in. I sat in the last 5 board meetings. Seismic was never discussed. In Measure O, it was never there. All of a sudden, we couldn't find room. We needed 3.1 million to go somewhere. Here's seismic.
well,
That's what it looks like to me.
So I
Sandra,
understand.
hold.
I understand. I do want to be sensitive to time. We're over our time right now. So if other people want to stay and continue to talk, that's fine. But I know for the tour, we're going to go ahead and conclude. But I really appreciate everybody, and I'm really thankful that people that support the measure and people that oppose the measure are here.
I oppose it.
So I wasn't pointing that way.
pointed at
I
me.
was like, yeah.
It's just like left and right.
It's not all over your property at all. But I said this in the board meeting. I think that it's important to have people have their voice, and not everybody's going to agree, and that's why you get to vote. And I really apologize to you that I don't like mudslinging. None of us do. That's disheartening to hear. Both sides. I don't think either side should be saying things or whatever. Everybody should be respectful and
We
understand
started
that people.
this a year ago, where we all sat down and talked about this and included all your diverse
I think
elements.
we had you had a tour several months ago.
I think it was June. We had a tour. I filmed
It's
it.
been a real challenge to communicate to the community. When we started with Measure O in 20.
We walked door to door.
No, but we,
2019.
we thought we were doing a good job. Turns out we weren't doing a good job. But we would post our
tried.
meetings on the board. Stuff is on the agenda.
Yeah.
We're limited by what we can do as this governing board. We're like, wow, no one showed up for the meeting.
I
We-
just think
we
a
had
lot of
public-
this divisiveness could have been
It could have been
avoided.
avoided. It actually could have
Absolutely,
been avoided.
absolutely. Now here's the thing. We did a poor job of communicating. We thought we were doing a good job. We would advertise for community meetings. We advertised for, the board meetings.
We went to
All
the
showed
Sunol
up. Hey, we're gonna have a
advisory.
tour at our school board. The gates locked outside. Nobody could come in. They thought, I guess there's no meeting. Just for human error, we didn't have the building open. We had, like I said, over a dozen meetings leading up to where we are today. And that includes the ones that were
Yeah.
for Measure O. But something I do want to say is that I apologize for what you guys have been put through,
Yeah.
what the other
That's not
people
okay.
have been put through.
We're not doing this for us.
Absolutely.
We're not doing, this has nothing to do with me. I can afford the tax.
Yeah.
I'm doing it for some of the older people in the community who are.
On fixed income,
On
that
fixed
it's
income.
a big deal.
Yeah.
And when somebody says, "Oh, it's just a cup of Starbucks a week," what's the big
Yeah,
deal?
that's
That's
really-
pretty
that's really
insulting,
downplaying.
and that's pretty
Yeah. I agree.
minimizing of the impact that it'll have, particularly in an inflationary environment where every dollar does count. And maybe I just want to close by saying that if you want to, as you said, engender trust, then you will be much more transparent, much more forthcoming. You will invite more discussion and dialogue. You will actually come out and very unequivocally state that it is not acceptable for us, a group of us that are trying to just get information out, to have that information removed from the public bulletin board. It is not even saying vote one way or the other. It's just saying please go here for more information, to have that taken down daily, and we know who's doing it.
Where is this?
And we know who's doing it. It's happening in the bulletin board every single day. And for our signs to be taken down, for sheriffs to be called to our home because we're doing what? Being democratic citizens and active in our community. And leadership is all about what you create, what you promote, what you allow. And if you don't unequivocally come out and say this is not acceptable, then people think it's okay. And frankly, it reflects poorly on the board leadership and the school leadership, because we know you. We know that that is not something that you would do, and that's not something that you're egging people on to do. But when you stay silent and you don't come out and say it, then things escalate to the point where you have law enforcement coming to do what? It's ridiculous. It's beyond ridiculous.
I got an email from him a couple of weeks ago that said, "Hey, I've heard there's signs being taken down. Stop doing that. That's not okay." So we're trying to be unequivocal, but How do we put it out there? We're trying to email it around, tell people, put it on Facebook, Sunol Glen Community Group. But
Letters to the editor of
I'm
Inform
sorry.
Sunol, right?
Everyone around- and-
Letters to the editor.
Everyone around us, so listen, I know 4 people in Sunol that are afraid to say what their opinions on these things. And that's, I understand that.
Yeah.
But I'm saying, I know people are coming to me and it stays between, they know me, they said to me, it stays with me. But start talking to people about what's going on here. This is not right. We do not pick, hey, someone and I can disagree, that's fine. As long as we're respectful. But we need to start talking to the other people around there or standing up for the people and tell them what you're doing is wrong. And saying it. Okay? So if you're wrong, knock it off.
This is not even about the school for me.
Yeah.
Completely agree, and we agree with what you're saying. There needs to be more information. That's why we're here this morning. We're taking time out of our Saturday to try to answer questions.
Because we care, and we know you care. You would
do.
not be here. Everyone
Yeah.
has other things to do,
Thank-
and so we
thank you.
appreciate that. We just would want more support.
Yeah, I need Molly's voice. She's good at projecting.
Tom's talking.
Are the board meetings open to the public?
Yes.
Yeah, by law.
Unless they're discussing personnel matters. and
There you go.
That cannot be in the open.
You can't do more than that.
Again, we had tours offered during the board meetings, but I was brought from the community. They said a lot of people work, they're commuting, they're doing dinner for their kids, have something on the weekend.
They want
And
you to
so-
back it up an hour.
Yeah,
I've heard that.
we're maybe too late here for our group, for our community. But I said, let's just have something on a Saturday. People can walk around, at least look,
It's a good idea.
get some questions answered. You can still disagree, or maybe you're on the fence. But that's what we should have done a lot sooner. And so I apologize for that.
Well, I thought you did in June. I taped it.
Again, maybe the word didn't
Was it
get out.
advertised out
Maybe the
too
word
much?
didn't get out enough.
Yeah.
Oh.
I mean, this time
we
I put it
struggle
on.
with
I put it on
Does
Facebook,
everybody
I put it
here
on
know that we
Nextdoor.
have something called Inform Sunol? Do we all know about that? 'Cause okay, if you're not on it, talk to me. I have it, and I have a letters to the editor process that anybody who's willing to follow the rules that are there, because I did them based on what the independent newspaper does. Anybody wants to follow those rules, I will publish your opinion, and I will put it out to the community. The community has a right to publish their opinion, but you must follow the rules that I put in there. I created it because I sensed that during this period there are a bunch of people that have differing opinions, but the rule is you have to say who you are.
Yeah, you have to identify yourself. That's,
Okay.
That's the basis of democracy. You have to stand up for what you believe in. And if you're willing to make horrible statements about someone else, then the community should know. I mean, frankly, if you're being I won't use any more.
You
bad
mean like
language.
obnoxious? Is that
Obnoxious is a nice,
Obnoxious.
kind way of saying it.
kind way? So it's worse than obnoxious. If you're being worse than obnoxious, go ahead.
Don't write it down. I mean, you will regret it. But identify yourself. I mean, heck.
That's why I'm here.
Yeah, I would just like to, in closing, just address a couple things. I mean, number one is we had the bond in 1999, and I wasn't here at that time. Some of you probably were, but it was a vote to pass the bond to put in these buildings. And part of that was, I don't know if it was advertised or not, was to expand the enrollment of the school. And the reason for that is because our Sunol student population was declining. And in order to keep the school going, we need money from the state. I don't want to go through a boring history. Let's not.
Well, no, it's important. Don't stop.
I'll
Don't
put
stop.
myself to sleep. True. With Prop 13, when you guys all remember when that happened, it changed the whole economic structure of how schools are funded, and a lot of stuff in the state with property taxes and so on. So instead of getting all this money that we used to get, all of a sudden, the school boards are faced with, okay, we're only going to get a certain number of dollars per kid.
For attendance, not even enrollment, which we're only one of 6 states that has that rule.
Yeah, for
Good job,
for
California.
attendance at
They
the
have to
school.
be. They have to have their butt in the seat.
Yeah.
Yeah. So basically what I'm saying is right now we have 67 kids from Sunol in our school here. And I've said it before, not all the Sunol kids even come to this school. Some are homeschooled, some go to other schools, private schools, whatever. But we have 67 kids. And so as a school board, some of them are our kids. My kid graduated from here. Paul's did, I know.
Grandkid.
In order to, our goal is to provide the best possible education for our Sunol kids. All right. And so we could have just 67 kids here, maybe have a 2-room schoolhouse with 2 or 3 teachers. That's all we could afford with the money we get from the state. So the decision was made back in the 90s, we need to bring outside kids in order to augment the education that our Sunol kids get. So we can have an art program, music teacher, we can have enough custodians, we can have
One
staff.
teacher per grade level.
One teacher per grade level. So yeah, it's a little disturbing, but 25% of the kids are from Sunol, 80 or 75% are from outside. Without these kids coming from outside, I mean, they bring so much to our school. They enrich our school. They enrich our kids' education. Without them, our budget would be decimated. So even if I've said, people told me, just cut it down to 200 kids. Well, again, for $11,000 per kid, that would be a $770,000 cut in our budget. So with numbers that big, it's staffing. So we're going to probably lose our art, music, drama, maybe a custodian, maybe an office staff. I mean, it's tough to lose that kind of stuff where our kids their education is getting cut back. When we talk about, the school's going to close down, like you said, if measured data doesn't pass, the school's not going to shut down. But what I would hate to see is this school with like a cyclone fence around it because it's red tagged, so we can't go in it anymore. The roof falls in. There's a fire because of the electrical. Some people said have a fire, then we can use insurance to build it. Like I'm not encouraging that.
Unfortunately, that's what happened in downtown Sunol several times. We lost several buildings for that reason.
While people are in there, people panic, people get hurt. We have this thing in the fire service. If it's predictable, it's preventable. We can predict. Maybe a person with a disability, a lawsuit. Our school can't afford something like that if we don't have access or if somebody gets hurt. If the building, damage, a piece of plaster falls in someone's head. I mean, I know these are all just, whatever. If there's a water leak in our pipes and causes major flooding, then we have that expense. All these things. We have 2 classrooms in there. We have our staff offices in there. We'd have to set up temporary buildings for them to go to. I'm more of a, let's fix it before it happens. I like to head things off rather than all of a sudden be disaster management and crisis management. So that's why we all agree it needs to be done. We've also heard, the price is too much, it costs too much. Unfortunately, it's not like I'm building a barn by myself and I'm doing all the labor. I can get all the materials just for the cost of the materials. We have so many, organizations we have to answer to, the DSA, inspections, the county, the state. It's just a lot more complicated than just what we do. What else was I going to say? Okay, the other thing is that the 300 families are footing the bill. It could be, I counted through the voter guide, and there's 345 unique addresses on the voter roll, and granted, some of those people may own multiple properties. But what we're forgetting is that it's our whole community. So it's all 838 parcels that divided up. So it's our commercial, residential, agricultural, and our there's businesses and people that own property that are from outside of Sunol. I use Dina Rossler as an example. Gianna Roy Goebel, they live on my street, and they have an olive oil farm there. And they live in Livermore, and I'm not sure where Vina lives, but they're businesses that are here, and they're paying taxes for the school. The school community patronizes, at the local businesses. The 75% of people, another thing I brought up is that are coming from outside. They bring so much, not just dollars, $11,000 a year, but the volunteer hours that come in. It's amazing how much volunteer work is done here. We have a walkathon every year. They bring in
$42,000 with only 270 children.
I mean,
it's amazing.
Our 67, actually, we have 45 families with the 67 kids that are from Sunol. What I'm trying to say is that they really enrich our school more than just bringing in dollars. The other thing is it's not hard, but I think it's illegal to charge them money to fix up our school.
Taxes at their community that they're not even attending that school. So we have Fremont parents. Fremont bonds, and they're not going.
Fremont's voted down their last bond.
Right?
Yeah.
And that's the other thing is, Fremont I mean, so many in the last election cycle, so many bonds voted down. And because, like we all know, it was during the 2020, during the pandemic and all that whole thing, a lot of uncertainty, economic upheavals. Not to say that that's not going to happen again.
Now, right?
Not to say that that's not going to happen
It's
again.
still scary.
But what it comes back down to is, as a community, do we want to pitch in and support the school? I think, yeah, we do. But are there other options? And that's where, getting everybody together like this. If this bond measure doesn't pass, we're going to obviously have to come together and say, okay, what are we going to do next? In 2 years, are we going to have another bond? Well, not without talking to people and figuring out other options.
And possibly wishing that we'd passed the last one, isn't that what you said?
Yeah.
No.
Well, you would have had a new building and we wouldn't have had seismic problems.
Well, I would have been close.
Yeah. And to go back to your other question, if you go onto the school's website, you can look, and there's a thing you can click on. It's got the actual verbiage of the bond measure. So when you put the thing on the ballot, it's 75 words or less. You have to describe, what is this thing all about? So it's kind of a summary. But if you read, it's a little boring, but you can read all the whole project list and all the exceptions and all the the law garbage. And you can see that seismic is included in that part, but we didn't have enough words to stick it in the 75 one. I guess
So you were saying, I'm sorry, you were saying that you can only do what's on the bond measure. You can only spend the money on that. So is it what's in that verbiage, the 75 words that you can only spend on?
Not my understanding. To my understanding, it is.
But the seismic was never on it. It was just added recently.
Yep.
It was in Measure O.
Yeah.
It
So
was not in measure.
It was not in that description.
Not in that little blurb. It's true,
So
but it was in the language.
I wrote the scope of work
yeah.
that the estimate for the last bond measure was based on, and we included that.
How come we can't find it anywhere?
Well, I don't know.
I'll see if
Was-
I can
that was
dig it
not
up.
submitted
I'll see
to
if
the
I can
state
dig it
or
up.
Submitted to the bond. It doesn't say anything
Yeah.
about the seismic on there. We went back and looked,
Yeah.
and we looked at this one, and it still doesn't say it.
Yeah.
Well,
I-
can I say something? The BART measure was billions in B. It was restricted the same number of words that Sunol is. And yet, they are when they find something wrong, they have to correct it. They have to bring it up to code. So that's covered. So you absolutely cannot put everything into that little
Wouldn't you
phrase.
The greatest amount is 3.1 million for any one thing? Wouldn't you think 3.1 million? Wouldn't you think you should put that in there and not put playground mulch?
You don't have to. That's the thing.
That doesn't make sense to me, that you wouldn't put the greatest amount that's going on the bond that you want to spend the money on, and you would have put on the least amount of $99,000 into the bond.
I hear what you're saying, and in the 75 word thing, like I said, we're limited. Like in Measure O, playground was on there. I think it said main building upgrades, playground structure. It said like a math and engineering lab. It goes on and on. But if we had put seismic in there, well, that's covered under the summary of upgrading the main building. But if you go into the text of the bond, which is I think it's like 2.5 pages. That's where it's included.
That's where I couldn't find it.
Yeah, but it's not being deceitful. It's trying to include the bullet point of projects, and for the expanded view of it, it's in the text of the
The
bond.
point is, we know it's in there.
Yes.
Yeah.
So
Hard to find, though.
if for some reason this does not pass, I would be happy to help the committee to find other creative ways to support this school.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, it may not pass.
I think the community wants to.
I think the
Wants to
community
help.
would
And
very much
I
want
would be
that.
happy to help with that.
And to go back to-
for instance,
I appreciate
there's
that.
a couple of things. The community's got $300,000 just sitting in a fund. What the Business Guild did was invest that fund. We started with 14,000. Now we got 20. This is after a few years, and we've talked to the county about doing this. This is our money. It's not the county's money. It's for Sunol. Take that money and invest it. Maybe dedicate some of that money to the school because it's not being used now.
Right.
Why not use it? The other thing is, have we approached the other 270 families, minus the 69, about supporting our school? Have we even talked to them about this? There are a number of other
schools
things
do
that
that
we
all the
might,
time, right? They ask
we
for-
might.
But we're public school and legal. So yes, they are aware. And they a lot of times are like, what can we do to help? The problem is because it would be a voluntary
That's okay.
donation.
It's okay. We're
Well, hold on, let her finish.
We're not telling
No,
them they have to.
let me finish.
Let her
But
finish.
the point, I'm not done yet.
Gosh, I didn't get to
But
finish.
Oh,
let me
we thought
finish,
you were done.
please.
Sorry.
The point is that they evidently created a situation where we had $42,000 in one event.
Yep. Walk-a-thon.
$42,000? Don't tell me they're not willing to help.
Yeah.
Right? So these are creative methods that I think we might be able to use. If it doesn't pass, that we might be able to come up with some ideas. You know, all it takes is unity,
Community.
Okay? Community and unity, right?
If our community says, no, we don't want to put money into the school,
That's not what we're saying.
or if they don't want to do the bond measure, then the optics to these outside families is, well, why are we investing if Sunol is
Same old reason, communication.
It'd be
Lousy
great.
communication.
That would be great.
You know, and fear. I mean,
I expect more.
I love that Neil said that, but when I will share, I'm just going to be really transparent here. When Measure O, the opponent said, we will be here, we'll roll up our sleeves and we'll help. When Measure O failed, no one came. So, which is disheartening because, you know, we do want to be creative. And one gal said, I'm a grant writer, I'll come. And she was big on no against O. And it didn't pass, and we never saw her again. So that was sad. So you're on.
I will help change that. We can change that.
So
and
let me
I have faith in you, Neil.
Let me ask you. You were trying to respond to something that he said, and you got cut off. Do you remember what it was?
Oh, yeah. We have talked about that too. What you were bringing up is the non-Sunolian families participating. So what we have found is that when there's a big event, people are, oh yeah, I want to help fund this. Unfortunately, we can't. Obviously, it would be volunteer, and so we can't mandate it. And so I'll give you another example. So when the state said that you have to provide universal lunches, we had families going, and it encroaches on the general fund for us. We have to supplement that. It's not free lunch. The district is sponsoring it, which is fine. That's the law. But then we had families saying, "Oh, that's terrible. It's taken away from the district budget. We'll participate. We'll voluntarily pay for lunches." I think we had a couple of families a couple of times pay, and then that was it. So I think what's hard is you can't then base a big project on maybe people will donate $100 every month. Maybe that's what's hard.
Yeah, but prioritizing these projects might lead to something that might be successful one project at a time rather than doing them all.
Right.
And
grants are great. I mean, that's how we got the
OPSC. I know it's a pain in the rear end, but you have to be diligent.
Yeah.
And you're on the phone every other day. Did my grant go? Is there any problems? You need more communication. I mean, you just have to be as diligent as they are.
Yeah.
There's a reason people are driving from Discovery Cove to come all the way down to the school.
And the other problem I see is that, are we in a recession? I don't know. I mean, we've got great, our unemployment numbers are great, but we've got the GDP has failed twice now, and so, wait until the supply chains loosen up a little bit. I mean, I'm paying $6 a gallon for gas, and let's let that drop a little bit, maybe. I mean, I don't know.
I love the maybe.
Yeah, well,
California.
I think he's just saying there's other ways.
No,
There's
I
other
know.
ways.
I know.
Yeah.
Neil is
And
very
Molly, I
creative.
think to your point that if this doesn't pass, that you should convene a public discussion around, okay, it's all hands on deck, and we actually do need people to volunteer and to take responsibility for all the different work streams that will be required for us to actually pull together what is required to help with the facilities repairs and in a prioritized fashion. So I actually think if this doesn't pass, that there's still many options, and we should lean in to do that. And I think there's enough interest in the community and enough passion around, yes, we want a vibrant school, and we want all the children, out of town children, in-town children, to have the best education possible. I don't think that there's any debate about that. I think the debate is all about, is this the only option? We will find out in a couple of weeks whether it passes or not. Between now and then, it would be wonderful for all of you in the school board leadership to take the temperature down, to invite everyone to vote their conscience, and afterwards we'll pick up the shovels, we'll do the work. And if you convene us, I think we will all be there. So and then you can hold us accountable. Like, okay, you said you'd help. I need some help. Right? And so I just think that there's still time for us to come together as a community, as opposed to have this issue be such a divisive issue that's turned so ugly, especially for some of us that are really just trying to engender more dialogue, quite frankly.
Thank you.
Can I speak? I'm raising my hand.
Yeah.
Okay. So here's the thing. I'm going to wait because this is important. I'm not going to take your time without it being important.
Come on, Andrew.
Okay. When I went to Cal Berkeley for business school, they sold rooms for names. A major accounting firm gave money to have a room. A major.
I'm going to get you on video.
Oh, okay. Thank you. So in other words, if you wanted to be a philanthropist, you could donate money and maybe have a wing, and it would be called, like, if I had enough money, it'd be the Andrew Turnbull School of Science wing, right? Wouldn't that be wonderful? I don't have that kind of money.
I heard that you and Jim were donating to put a new roof on the school, $325,000. I thought you guys were putting up.
Are you talking or am I?
I'm talking.
Okay, because I get the floor.
Oh, go ahead.
I gave her the floor the whole time. I never interrupted.
You video.
Thank you. So my question, because we have the right people in the room, is that valid? Is that a way to raise funds in an elementary middle school in California? Could we do that? Like, could you have the Bonderson wing? Could you have the Intel wing? Could you have the Turnbull wing? The Neil Davies wing? Can we do it that way? Can that legally? I just want to know. Is that a legal way to raise money?
So can people donate as a benefactor and a room or something be named after them? Absolutely. Has that happened in the 100 years that this school has been here? It's never happened. But can it happen? Absolutely. That would be fabulous.
That's one idea. I think there's so many ideas that we could.
It's
Okay, I was just looking for
bricks on the ground.
No, I seriously thought. I just want to be straight with everybody. I seriously thought that there was a issue that couldn't be done, whereas it was okay at the University of California, it's okay at the Cal State.
I have not researched it. I would have to, I guess, look into a little more, but
Because we do have.
It's accepting donations.
This is the second highest income per capita community in Alameda County, behind Piedmont. Only Piedmont.
Very successful.
Only Piedmont makes more money per capita than the people in Sunol. And so amongst us, not me, I'm a little bit behind on my management consulting career, but I'm telling you, if this community wanted to step up and people really wanted to show up and they wanted to donate that way, that would work. But Molly Barnes, I agree with, I understand what you just said. Like, who's showing up? Who's showing up to do it? They had the opportunity for 100 years to do it. So maybe what I just said was just a shot in the wind.
Yeah, I didn't mean that negatively. I
get it. I meant it because it's true. Yeah. Who showed up to give the money? Thank you. Okay, anything else?
Just quickly like to say the people who showed up were around in the 1920s when this community was very, very small, and they dug deep into their pockets to build this school. And they had pride in their community and in their children, and they sacrificed. It was sacrificial financial giving to build this school. And every single one of us has real estate that has its very high value in Alameda County because this school is in our community. Like my husband and myself, people move here and invest in this real estate for the school. And that's why people outside the community very much want their children here. Not all of them can be accommodated. Some of them cannot attend here because there is a capacity on what the school can handle. How fortunate are we to have a school in our community that is the foundation of our real estate values? I'd just like to point that out.
Well, yeah, I appreciate that. Yeah,
One
give her a
last,
hand. But let me ask, I want to add something to that, because I, as a resident of Sunol, I didn't have any children when I came here. I was a single man. Then I added a wife, right? And then along the way, I added a grandchild, and we took a great nephew in, right? Even though the school has all these people from outside, I immediately, my kids got to come to the school. Nobody got to stop them from coming to the school. So even if you have this issue where it's being filled to the natural capacity of the school, right? Nobody in Sunol gets denied
That's right.
their spot
That's
in this school.
absolutely right.
Of course, that's
I
the
just want
law.
to build on
The ones that
something
live
that
here.
Ms. Mocciaro stated about if it doesn't pass, we need to get together and everybody talk about that. I agree, but to build on that, I think if it does pass, we need to do the same thing. Because I, for one, I don't like paying taxes, and if I can reduce the taxes I'm paying,
Sure,
Brian
we'd all.
agrees with
I
me.
love paying taxes.
If I can reduce the amount of taxes
I write a
pay,
bigger check every time. Double it.
I think we need to do the same thing, and I would challenge the incoming governing board to find other sources to pay for. It's not like, okay, we got $10.9 million, let's spend it. It's more of a, okay, prioritize and get other money from other sources so we can stop paying all the taxes that are required to pay this amount back. With all the inflation and different percentage, what's it going to be? 11. It goes from 11 million rounding up to 22 million is what it's going to cost us. What if we only had to pay 5 million or 6 million of our taxpayers' monies? We can go for matching funds from the state. We can get donations from people. We can get money from the quarry, from the SCAC. They get a bunch of money from the quarry, from the Business Guild. What if the Business Guild said, we want to sponsor your handicap ramps? Then that comes off the
Put our
the
name
total
on the
that we
ramp.
have to pay.
That's
And
what
we
we
don't
like
have
to do. We want to put
we
our
don't
name
have to
on it.
sell all the bonds as the future goes on. So that what I'm saying is,
Philanthropy
yes,
is
if
fun.
it doesn't pass, we need to get together and find out other sources.
But even if it does pass, we still need the
get together and
philanthropy.
find out other sources.
Yeah,
that's,
I love it.
That's what I said.
Thank you.
But you also said that after O failed, right, you kind of lost all your wind out of your sails, and then nothing was talked about. So to say that nobody jumped in here and tried to help, even the board didn't even consider anything, right? Because that's what you said.
We continue to search out grants and other sources of funding.
I'm just saying about Measure J until just a couple of months during the summer, right?
Yeah, and I was just talking about myself, not as the governing board as a body, but that was just me.
Yeah.
So.
So are we done?
Yeah.
I think we are.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you for guys.
Please grab a
for coming.
donut on the way out,
appreciate
otherwise
everybody
Molly.
coming.
Good.
Saturday.
Our guy working on a Saturday. Thank you for being here, everybody.
I didn't make a lot.